Beginning. The city that never slept. The city of Verelion was the kind of place where the stars were barely visible. Towering alien skyscrapers stretched endlessly into the sky, their surfaces glowing with holographic advertisements and shifting neon lights. Ships flew between buildings like silent insects, and the streets below were crowded with creatures from every corner of the galaxy. Humans were rare there, and poor humans were even rarer, which is exactly what I was. I had arrived on Verelion 3 weeks earlier after my cargo ship contract ended badly. The captain vanished with the payment, the crew scattered, and I was left with nothing but a small backpack and a few credits. By the 3rd week, those credits were gone. That night, I wandered through the lower district searching for something simple. A place to sleep. It didn't have to be comfortable. It didn't even have to be safe. Just somewhere out of the cold metallic wind that blew through the city's underlevels. Most shelters refused me. Others demanded payment I didn't have. Eventually, I found myself in a narrow alley between 2 enormous structures. Pipes ran along the walls, releasing warm steam. The ground vibrated faintly from the traffic above. It wasn't much, but it would do. I leaned against the wall and slid down to sit on the cold metal floor. Perfect, I muttered. I closed my eyes. Then suddenly, a hand grabbed my wrist. I jumped up instantly. Standing in front of me was a woman. At first glance, she looked human. Dark hair fell over her shoulders, and her face was calm but intense. She wore a long coat made of a material that shimmered faintly under the alley lights. But her eyes gave her away. They glowed softly, an unnatural shade of silver. She looked directly at me and spoke one word. Come. I blinked in confusion. What? She tightened her grip on my wrist. Come, she repeated, more urgently this time. I tried to pull my arm back. Listen, I don't know what you want, but... Suddenly, a loud explosion echoed from the street beyond the alley. The ground trembled. Footsteps thundered nearby. The woman looked toward the sound, and then back at me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. If you stay here, you will die. Then she pulled me forward and started running. The chase begins. We burst out of the alley and into a crowded street filled with vendors and hovering vehicles. Hey! I shouted as she dragged me along. Can you explain what's happening? No time, she said calmly. Behind us, armored figures suddenly appeared at the end of the street. They weren't police. They were something worse. Black combat armor covered their bodies, and their helmets displayed glowing red targeting lenses. Hunters. Professional ones. And they were scanning the crowd. The woman pulled me into a side corridor, just as energy blasts tore across the street. I froze. Why are they shooting at us? I asked. She looked directly at me. They're not shooting at you. Another explosion echoed. They are hunting me. That was not the answer I wanted. The hidden safe house. After 10 minutes of twisting through corridors and maintenance tunnels, she finally stopped at a small metal door hidden behind a stack of cargo containers. She tapped a code into the panel. The door slid open. Inside was a small apartment, dimly lit but surprisingly clean. She finally released my wrist. I stared at her. All right, I said slowly. Start talking. She walked to a console and activated a surveillance screen showing the streets outside. The hunters were everywhere. Scanning. Searching. For her. She turned back toward me. I apologize for involving you. Involving me? I said. You kidnapped me. You were in danger. I was sleeping. She tilted her head slightly. Exactly. I rubbed my face. Who are you? For a moment she said nothing. Then she removed the strange metallic bracelet from her wrist. The moment it came off, something incredible happened. The woman changed. Her appearance shifted slightly, as if a holographic disguise had been removed. Her skin shimmered faintly with an iridescent glow. Thin luminous lines ran along her arms like flowing light, and her silver eyes burned brighter. She wasn't human at all. "I am called Lyris," she said. "And those hunters? They serve the Dominion." "Which means?" She looked at me quietly. "They serve the people who want me captured." I leaned against the wall. "Of course they do." The truth about Lyris. Over the next hour, she explained everything. Lyris wasn't just an alien traveler. She was the last surviving heir of the aliencivilization, a species so advanced that their technology could reshape entire star systems. Centuries earlier, the Illyrians had disappeared mysteriously. Most believed they were extinct, but one survived. Her. The Dominion had spent years searching for her, because if they captured her, they could access Illyrian technology. Technology capable of controlling fleets, planets, entire galaxies. "And you grabbed me because?" I asked. She hesitated. Then she answered honestly, "Because humans are unpredictable." That's not comforting. They would not expect me to trust you. I stared at her. "So your plan was to randomly kidnap a homeless mechanic and hope it works?" She thought about it. "Yes." I sighed deeply. Fantastic. Climax. The hunters arrive. The safe house alarm suddenly blared. Lyris looked at the screen. The hunters had found us. 6 of them surrounded the building. Energy rifles ready. "They traced us," she said calmly. "That's bad," I replied. "They will breach the door in 30 seconds. That's worse." She walked to a hidden compartment and pulled out a small glowing device. "What's that?" "Illyrian technology." "Will it help?" "Yes." "Good." She placed it in my hands. Then she said something unexpected. "You must take this and escape." I stared at her. "Excuse me?" "They are not here for you," she said. "If they capture me, they will leave you alive." "And if I leave you?" She looked away. "Then the Dominion wins." The door outside exploded. The hunters were entering. I looked at the glowing device in my hands. Then I looked at her. "You dragged me into this mess," I said. "Yes. So, I guess I'm finishing it." Her eyes widened slightly. "What are you doing?" I grinned. "Proving humans are unpredictable." "The escape." I activated the device. Instantly the room filled with blinding light. The walls seemed to bend as space itself warped. The hunters burst through the doorway, but their weapons froze midair. Time slowed. Lyris stared at the effect in shock. "That device, it bends temporal fields." "Good," I said. "Because we're leaving." We ran past the frozen hunters and into the street. The city stretched around us like a glowing maze. Ships roared overhead. We jumped into a small cargo shuttle sitting on a nearby landing pad. "Can you fly?" she asked. "No." "Then this will be interesting." The engines roared to life. Within seconds, we were blasting upward through the endless towers of Verelion. Behind us, the Dominion ships launched in pursuit. But the Illyrian device activated again. Space twisted around us. The stars stretched into brilliant lines. And suddenly, we were gone, ending the beginning of something bigger. Hours later, the shuttle floated quietly in deep space. The stars were finally visible again. For the first time since arriving on Verelion, everything was silent. Lyris sat across from me in the cockpit. "You risked your life for me," she said softly. I shrugged. "You grabbed my wrist and dragged me into a galactic conspiracy. I figured I might as well commit." She laughed quietly. It was the first time I had seen her relax. The glowing Illyrian device floated between us. With it, entire empires could rise or fall. "What happens now?" I asked. She looked out the window at the endless stars. "Now we run." "For how long?" until the Dominion stops hunting us. I leaned back in the pilot seat. Well, I said, I was just looking for a place to sleep. She smiled. And instead you found a galaxy chasing you. I looked at the stars. She was right. A few hours earlier, I had been a nobody sleeping in an alley. Now I was traveling through space with the last survivor of an ancient alien civilization, while one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy hunted us. Funny how life worked. Lyris suddenly reached over and grabbed my wrist again. I raised an eyebrow. Don't tell me we're running again. She smiled playfully.
No.
Then she pointed toward a distant star system glowing faintly in the darkness. That, she said, is where our real journey begins. And for the first time since she pulled me from that alley, I realized something. Maybe I hadn't been unlucky that night. Maybe grabbing my wrist had saved my life. Because the universe was a lot bigger than one cold alley. And somehow, I had just become part of a story the entire galaxy would soon hear about.